Hello, my name is Zac. If you've not met me before, you might be wondering who I am. I'm the CEO of a group company called Career Pass. Before I kind of jump into the presentation, this won't be a sales pitch. It will be a little bit weird, so just forgive me. I'm going to give you a bit of substance about what we actually do for probably 1 minute, which then hopefully gives me a little bit of credibility to talk about everything else I'm going to go into. Feeling a bit worse for wear this morning. I have a 3-month-old child, and last night was the first night that I've had away from my wife and kid, and instead of getting an early night, I decided to watch Blind Love on Netflix until 2 a.m., which is an absolutely amateur mistake. So if you're all ready for some awesome graphics and transitions on PowerPoint, here we go. Career Pass Network, there's 4 brands within the company. Bouncy. SRS, under that brand, we do RPO work for some big corporates. And we also run assessment center. I'm breathing so heavily into this, sorry. We also run assessment center simulations and workshops at universities to help them improve the employment outcomes of their students. Another cool graphic. Campus, it's a lovely bit of tech which helps employers engage with university societies, whether that's rugby teams, hacker societies, Afro-Caribbean societies. Third brand, another swish. Offended is our creative agency. We do some pretty cool work with some pretty cool companies to help them attract the right talent to their business. And then finally, the OG brand, which is what I'm talking about today, is Gradtouch, and our story. But as a group, we're just under 100 people spread across the UK. So why am I here talking to you so heavily about why you should communicate your employer brand, your company persona? Firstly, statistics, which we all love, I love. According to the High Flyers report that came out last year, 60% of employers place a high priority on improving students' perceptions of their organizations. The other 40% of you should leave now. And identifying and showcasing your company persona is an amazing way to attract talent to your business. Secondly, as you'll discover, I'm a big fan of self-deprecation, and I'm going to tell you a cautionary tale about how we screwed up as a business over the years by using gimmicks to try and communicate our company persona. So, first up, Gradtouch. We're not Bradtouch. We're not Gradbutch. Oh, where's that gone? I knew I should use my laptop. Sorry, Natasha. Dragtouch. Gradbutch. There you go. Here to talk about Gradtouch. And cool, good story, guys. I've had to use someone else's laptop because my thing wouldn't work. So I think all the animations are a bit screwed, which means my comical timing might be off a little bit. But it's cool, like I said, self-deprecation, so let's just roll with it. Cool. Anyway, here's our story. This is where it gets interesting, I think. In the early days of starting a business, we had a ping pong table, and we thought that made us cool. Here's a picture. Here's a high-res image that we actually used on our job advertisements to try and attract people to come and work for us. The ping pong table became really entrenched into the company culture. Here we are watching England get beat in Euro 2016 on the ping pong table. And the problem is that ping pong tables gimmicks are never equal to the personality within the business, and it never will help you hire and attract people in the same way that talking about your company personality will do. It doesn't make up using gimmicks for less fun aspects of working life, such as working. And they're never a substitute for kind of really tangible things that you should be talking about. This is a football substitute bench. So gimmicks are never a substitute for things such as career progression, training, achievable work-life balance, actual things with substance that mean stuff to people. And eventually we did scrap the ping pong table, not because I was consistently in the bottom 10% of ping pong players in the office. You'd think that paying people's wages would mean that they'd let you win sometimes, but people get quite competitive. So What do I mean by company personality, persona? Is it the same thing as your brand? Well, my friend from Jurassic Park says, no, it's not. Take some water. Told you this is going to be a bit weird, so apologies. Your company persona and your personality is the thing that sits behind your brand. It's the substance, it's the actual stuff that makes your company what it is. The branding is the stuff that people sit in a room for hours on end, which is the shiny stuff you put out on your websites to try and convince someone to work for your company instead of the one next door. Your company persona it's subjective, it's authentic, it's real. I always like to use the example of, and it might be a terrible example, but when you go and buy trainers, you pay 10 times more for a pair of Nike shoes than you would do from Primani because of the brand. It's not the actual shoe. Sometimes it is. And I wanted to give you an example of when company brand and persona don't quite match up. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a company called UK Fast, which is a cloud company based in the northwest of England, which is where I'm from. This is their careers site. It says working at UK Fast. Just zoom in a little bit more. Comes with amazing perks, and we're dedicated to keeping employee satisfaction high. Then last year, the Daily Mail ran a story about how the CEO was a sexual predator and created a kind of a bullying environment within the workplace. And I know that's a bit of an extreme version, but that's kind of where brand came before persona and not the other way around. One of my other favourites, and again, these are all Manchester-based companies, but everyone knows the Co-op as being an ethical company. But 5 years ago, the CEO and chairman and some of the board were fired because of crystal meth and doing it at board meetings. But that's a kind of a tangential story, and it's quite interesting if you ever want to read it about the downfall of the Co-op Bank. But my point, and there is one, I promise, is that company personality is never the same thing as your employer brand. Persona, your personality, should dictate your brand. It's not the other way around. Lots of people might be attracted to your brand, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be the right fit for you if your brand hasn't been dictated by all the things that actually make your company who they are. So what do I mean by company persona? And I'll tell you, because that's the whole point of the presentation. Every company, no matter how big or small, no matter what industry they're in, has a company persona. For us, we've kind of tried to analyze it as your core values, your culture, the beliefs, your position in the marketplace. Are you a new business? Have you been around for 100 years? And what's the objectives of that business? And also, quite importantly, which a lot of people tend to forget, is the personalities of its current employees. If we take Gradtouch as an example, one of our key values is that we should always be, at all times, authentic. We should always be true to ourselves. I think in our starter book, we say, always be your weird-ass self. And that's really important to us. We have a culture of flexible working and empowering staff to kind of, what am I trying to say here? Empowering staff to kind of work to be focused on results rather than being in the office 9 to 5. And I think your persona will never be universal in appeal, but it will always help you attract the right candidates. And I think, as a kind of a summary on that, the persona is all of the elements that make your company unique and different to one which on paper looks quite similar. So if your persona is all the elements that make your company unique, getting a sore shoulder here, leaning like this, then your brand is all the kind of the shiny elements that you choose to showcase to the world to get people to apply for your company. And that's how we see the differences between persona and brand. So why does it matter? Well, in early careers recruitment, which is I hope why we're all here today, it's incredibly important. Young people, I say that as if I'm really old now. I'm quite old, I'm 31, which sneaks up on you. We ran a survey last year of over, I think it was over about 1,000 graduates, and we found that 74% were more likely to apply for companies that revealed a little bit about their personality than those that didn't. back to our story again, because I like talking about it. We quickly learned, as I mentioned before, that gimmicks weren't the thing that was going to attract people to kind of working for our business. We probably, with hindsight, could have seen it coming a mile away, that sticking a load of pictures of a ping pong table on our come and work for us page was never going to be the best thing. But I bet you're all asking, why, Zach? Why did it not work for you? Well, luckily I've got the answers in my notes here. In some occasions, people developed an idea of who we were as a business that wasn't true. They'd seen an image that we had portrayed to the world, and when they started working for us, the reality didn't match the image, and that caused problems with staff as soon as they joined the team. I realized that for myself, a ping pong table would not be the reason as to why I chose to work for a company. So why would it be appealing in its nature to other people looking at us? And also, it's when you receive applications from candidates and they talk about being organized or driven, you look for proof and you try and work out as to why they think they're organized and why they're driven, or X, Y, Z qualities. But just because you're saying that, we have a ping pong table, therefore we're cool, we're an interesting company to come and work for, the only thing that it proves is that you have a ping pong table. It doesn't go into any more depth than that, and that's what we desperately found out. So what we realized would work, some more water, was a more authentic approach. When we started being honest to ourselves and to the outside world about what it's actually like to work for our company, we had much more interesting conversations with candidates, and we found that there was putting out the reality of at that time what it was like to work in a startup, where actually reaped a lot more benefits than trying to paint this picture of a utopian workplace. Takeaways, though. So there's a few benefits I wanted to go into for employers. See you later. Sorry, it's not very exciting. Sorry. Back to the presentation. I told you it's going to be a bit weird. Sleep deprived, watching Netflix all night. So by talking about and communicating your company persona, it allows you to have more genuine, compelling job advertisements. So keep coming back to the ping pong table, but instead of relying on the ping pong table, as a business, we talked about more the things that actually spoke to candidates about having a proper work-life balance, which was something we wanted to push. It allows employers to create stronger connections with the right candidates. If you kind of think about it, you're going to get much more tailored applications if you show off more of your personality and the differences as to why you are different as an employer. Improve candidate perceptions. It's always a big one. And I'm not saying we're at the same scale or recruited as many graduates over the years as probably many of you here, but we did have a brand, and by actually talking about our persona more so, we were able to shift the perception within the brand and how people saw us. And finally, from a kind of a D&I standpoint, similar to using a ping pong table to say you're cool, we have a work-life balance, just because you talk about having a diverse and inclusive workforce and culture doesn't mean that you do. So showcasing that persona actually allows that to come to life. From a candidate perspective, one of the most important things for us is that it allows them to produce a more considered, relevant applications because they know a little bit more about who they're actually applying to. Realistic expectations is super key. You never want to sell yourself as being something that you're not. I think it's about actually embracing all the quirks of your business. And it allows candidates to be smart with their job hunting. It allows them to actually, other than searching on a job site based on salary, location, industry, they can actually gather a lot more information about the companies that are out there that they could apply to. How to identify a company's persona? Sorry that I'm leaning into this again. I was told to always make eye contact when doing presentations. I'm desperately trying to do that and look around the room. What are your core values, your culture, your beliefs? What is it that makes your company different? What is your company's position within the marketplace? What are your business's objectives? what are the personalities of your current employees and how can you use them to attract people into your business? And this applies no matter how big or small the organization is. It might be if it's quite a fragmented business that there are multiple personalities, not in a bad way, but because there could be in a larger organization who's, like I said, a bit more fragmented, there could be different ways in which you're targeting candidates. And how, finally, to communicate it. For me, the most important point has always been to tell stories. The spark and the connection that you can generate with candidates is amazing, and it's because it's the key part that actually makes your company human and allows you to have that human-to-human conversation. Case studies, like it's pretty case studies, yeah. By providing case studies, you're actually bringing that persona to life by saying, hey, look, we have people like this within our business. We're not just saying we're diverse and we have an inclusive workforce. Actually hear from people who work here and actually listen to them and when they talk about this business is unique and it is different and why they love working there. And I've included one more at the bottom, which is just, really easy start, is just use actual photos of your team. Don't use stock photos. I know that not many people probably do, but just actually take a few pictures of your team and use that to showcase the beginnings of what the personality is within the business. So I bet you're wondering, what are the take-homes? And I am too at this point. Number one, I always found, be authentic. It's super scary trying to be, and it's not about trying to be different, it's just trying to communicate differently than what everyone else is doing because the business is unique. Your company persona can be changed. It takes a lot of work, but it can be changed. No one else has your personality, your persona, and you have to use that to your advantage. It's the only way that when you're competing to recruit people, it's one of the main differentiators. And I've put, and of course, no ping pong tables in the hiring process. The key message for me, though, is, in a nutshell, if you were to boil it down to one sentence, is if you want to hire the right people, particularly in the early career space, the key is being authentic. That's all I've got. Thank you very much.